And joining me now to discuss the implications of SCAF's moves is the journalist and commentator Nabila Ramdani. Nabila, despite the changes that the Military Council have been unveiling today, if you like, they are still insisting they will hand over power to a civilian government.
Yes, indeed. They've been holding a press conference today for 2 hours, and they've been trying to reassure the Egyptian population, but more crucially also Mohamed Morsi, who seems to be the likely winner of the first free presidential elections. And they kept saying on a number of occasions, we do not want power, we want to hand over power. But it has to be said that they have given indications over the last few days, and indeed on the eve of the second round of the election itself, that they are not quite willing to hand over power quite yet. First of all, they started by dissolving a Muslim Brotherhood-dominated parliament. They went on to officially transfer legislative power to the military. They also made abundantly clear that the new constitution will be drafted by 100 members that they have chosen. They are also guaranteeing themselves job for lives. And, of course, they are now in charge of budgetary discussions as well, meaning that they do not want anybody to probe into the national budget.
For Mohamed Morsi, assuming that he does win, and obviously we're still at an early stage at the moment. I mean, both sides are claiming victory, Ahmed Shafiq and Mohamed Morsi, but the figures that we have ourselves seem to suggest that he is going to be the eventual winner. He's going to end up, isn't he, with a government without, of the country without a constitution. How will that work? And do you think that that is something that he is going to be able to accept? Will he? What I'm saying is, will he want power at any price?
Well, that's really the crux of the matter, and you're quite right to highlight it, because whoever wins these elections will end up without a constitution and without a parliament. We've seen the Muslim Brotherhood being in a very defiant mood, in fact. We've heard some spokespersons already challenging, defying the generals. For example, since Parliament has been dissolved, it has been effectively shut down and surrounded by soldiers, preventing parliamentaries, MPs effectively, to get in the building. The Muslim Brotherhood said he will challenge that and want to resume parliamentary sessions and contest the dissolution of Parliament. They're also contesting the choice by the generals of selecting their own people to draft a new constitution. There was, of course, a panel of people already in charge of that before the dissolution of Parliament, and the Muslim Brotherhood has made it abundantly clear that they are continuing with their work. So literally a standoff in the coming days between the army on the one hand and the Muslim Brotherhood, effectively the two major political forces in Egypt at the moment.
A story, of course, we will continue to watch closely. Nabila Ramdani, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Now, a British man who is severely disabled and fighting for the right to end his life has taken his argument to Twitter. Tony Nicholson suffered a stroke and can only move his eyes. In what is believed to be the first case of its kind in the world, technology is allowing him to share his thoughts on Twitter. Lawrence Lee reports from London.
This is, or rather this was, Tony Nicholson, handsome, a family man, a rugby fan, reduced to this by a massive stroke. He now has a condition known as locked-in syndrome and has described his life as worthless. His family have gone to the highest civil court in Britain to argue that if he's incapable of taking his own life, somebody else should be able to do it for him without being jailed for murder. It's a classic case of the right to die debate, but this one's different. Often in right to die cases in this country, the two sides will argue it out here without the subject, for obvious reasons, being able to have his or her say. But what's remarkable about this case is the way in which technology has allowed a severely disabled man to say what he thinks too, not just to this court, but to the court of public opinion. The one thing Tony Nicholson can do now is blink, and technology has allowed him to use his eyes